I'm Eliza Ward, 32 this year, senior operations manager at a global firm, living in a 2-bedroom apartment I bought with my own hands. No inheritance, no help, no handouts. But back then, I was just 16. 16 and already learning that sometimes it's the people who gave you life who teach you how to survive without them. My mother told me, without flinching, that I was no longer part of her plan. It wasn't shouted in anger. She didn't throw anything. She just said it plainly, like crossing out a line on a grocery list. We just can't keep stretching ourselves, Eliza. The twins need everything right now. I remember staring at the teacup in her hand, the way her thumb tapped the porcelain, the way she wouldn't look me in the eye. I used to think being abandoned looked like slamming doors. But no, it's quiet, it's clean. My mother raised me alone, told me my father wasn't worth the air he breathed, that he left because he never wanted a family, that I was a little miracle. I used to believe her. I used to wear that title like armor. We were okay for a while. She worked late. I learned to make boxed mac and cheese by age 7, but we laughed. We had movie nights on the floor. She'd braid my hair while half asleep and call me her one constant. Until Patrick came along. He was polite. Too polite. The kind of man who calls you, kiddo, without ever learning your favorite color. When they got married, I smiled through the photos, holding a bouquet I didn't choose. But deep down, I felt the shift, a crack. Then came the twins, Isla and Ivy. My mother glowed during that pregnancy. Everyone did. Except me, I tried. God, I tried. I brought her water. I rubbed her feet. I skipped parties just to stay home and be helpful. But somehow everything I did irritated her. My voice was too loud. My questions were too much. My presence felt like clutter in her new, perfect life. When the twins were 6 months old, she sat me down on the worn beige couch and said the words that broke me. I think it's time you lived with your grandparents for a while. You're a young woman now. You'll understand when you're older. Understand what? That love had an expiration date. I packed in silence. She didn't offer to help. Patrick nodded from the hallway like it was a business transaction. No hugs, no tears. Just a mother trading out one daughter for 2 newer ones. I took the bus alone that night, 1 duffel bag, no directions. People talk about motherly love like it's eternal, unbreakable. But mine came with a warning label until replaced. I wasn't sent away because they couldn't afford me. I was sent away because they no longer wanted to try. My grandparents didn't ask questions. They didn't need to. I showed up at their door that night with a duffel bag and hollow eyes, and they just opened their arms. No judgment. No interrogation. Just soft soup, clean sheets, and the kind of silence that heals. Their attic became my room. Sloped ceiling, peeling wallpaper, a window that leaked in winter. It wasn't much, but it was more than I had a day before. I got a part-time job shelving books at the town library. After school, I'd organize romance paperbacks and pretend I wasn't thinking about her. At night, I studied harder than I ever had, not just for grades, but for escape. I stopped calling my mom. She never called me, except once. It was my 17th birthday. She sent a photo of Ivy and Isla, dressed in matching princess gowns, blowing kisses at the camera. No message, no happy birthday, just them. It felt less like a greeting and more like a reminder. Look what I chose instead. I showed the picture to no one, but I kept it. I don't know why. Maybe part of me still thought I could earn her back. When it came time for college, I didn't ask her for help. She hadn't asked where I'd be living for the past 2 years. Why would she care where I went next? My grandparents were generous, but their bodies were fragile and their pensions even more so. Uncle Rick, my mom's estranged younger brother, was the one who stepped up. I'll co-sign your loan, he said. But if you major in poetry, I'm out. We laughed. I chose economics. Those first college years were brutal. I juggled work, study, and night shifts, lived on instant noodles and vending machine peanuts. I couldn't afford to fail. Couldn't afford to get sick. Couldn't afford to fall apart. But I made it, and I kept going. No one from my family came to my graduation. Just Rick, clapping like he'd coached me through the Olympics. Afterward, I moved to a studio with no heating and 2 mice, got my first job, got laid off, got a better job. Slowly, the world I built stopped being a fortress and started feeling like a home. At 32, I had everything I once thought was impossible: stability, dignity, peace. Then one day, I got a text from Rick. "Your mom and the twins are in town. She knows about your promotion." I might have slipped up. I didn't panic. I just stared at my phone. Cold. And for the first time in years, I felt something old and sharp flicker inside me. Not fear, not longing. Anticipation. Because I knew exactly why they were coming. Sometimes, survival isn't loud. It's quiet. Lonely. Relentless. But when the people who once discarded you come back with open hands and closed hearts, you start to wonder, did they miss you? Or did they just finally notice you're useful? They came on a Sunday. It was sunny, annoyingly so. I had just finished folding laundry when I heard the buzzer. At first, I thought it was a delivery. Then I saw them on the security cam: Dana, in her old beige coat, and behind her, Isla and Ivy. I hadn't seen them since they were toddlers. I took a deep breath, unlocked the door, and let 17 years of silence walk into my living room. Dana smiled like nothing had happened. "You look great, Eliza." Ivy didn't speak, just looked around with a small, cautious smile. Isla waved politely. The same politeness you give a stranger. I didn't return it. "I heard about your new position," Dana said, settling on the edge of the couch like she owned it. "Senior Ops Director. You've done well." "I know," I said. She blinked. "I suppose I hoped you'd tell me yourself." I tilted my head. "Why?" "You didn't tell me when the twins learned to walk, or when you moved houses, or that Grandpa died." She looked like I'd slapped her. "Patrick wasn't with them." I didn't ask. I didn't care. Ivy finally spoke. "We just thought maybe now was the time." "To what?" I said. "Pretend we're family again." Dana leaned forward. "We're not here to argue. We came because we're in a difficult place. The twins are applying to college. It hasn't been easy. The business failed. Patrick left. We're doing our best." There it was. She continued, "I thought maybe you could help with tuition. Just something to get Ivy and Isla started. It would mean so much." I stared at her, then at Ivy. She lowered her eyes, shy, or pretending to be. I was quiet for a long time. Then I asked, "Do you remember what you said to me when I left?" Dana didn't answer. "You said they deserved more than I did. Not that they needed more, that they deserved it." Like I didn't. "Eliza," she started. "No," I snapped. "You don't get to beg now. You don't get to knock on my door when you need something and expect me to forget that I was disposable." Ivy spoke again, quiet. "We didn't know. We were little. We grew up thinking you didn't want us." That cracked something. Not because it was sad, because it sounded rehearsed, like a line she'd practiced in the car. I looked at her harder this time. At the faint twitch in her jaw, the unblinking eye contact. Too still, too clean. She wasn't here out of guilt. She was here on a mission. And for the first time, I stopped seeing her as a little sister and started seeing her as a strategist. Dana rose, voice trembling. "You owe me, Eliza. After everything I did, I raised you alone. I sacrificed so much. You stopped raising me when it stopped serving you," I said. "And now you're back for return on your investment." I walked to the door. "I'm not your retirement plan, and I'm not her scholarship." They didn't move. Isla stood first. Ivy hesitated. She looked at me, not with pain, with calculation. Then she smiled. Not sweet, not sad, but like she'd already planned what came next. "Sometimes, the people you pity are the ones studying you. And just because someone was a child when you left, doesn't mean they stayed innocent." That day, I thought I closed the door on the past. But I was really opening it to the real threat. I thought I'd shut it all down. I thought the door slam was enough. But exactly 1 week later, I got an email from Ivy. "Hi, Eliza. I just wanted to say I'm sorry again for how things went down. I know Mom messed up, but I really want to get to know you. Not for money, just because you're my sister. No subject line, no last name, just Ivy. I hovered over the delete button. My gut said don't answer, but my curiosity was louder. I didn't reply, but I didn't block her either. 2 days later, she sent another. I got into 2 schools, one's in the city where you live. Not asking for anything, I swear. Just thought maybe we could grab coffee sometime, as sisters. Sisters. That word used to feel soft, warm. Now it sounded like strategy. Still, I read the email 3 times. Because I remembered how much I used to imagine being an older sister. Because I missed the idea of family. Even if the people behind it were broken. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted to believe she was different from Dana. So I agreed. We met at a quiet cafe. She was already there when I arrived, wearing a beige coat that looked a little too familiar. She stood and hugged me like we'd done it 100 times before. "I'm so glad you came," she said, eyes shining. We talked. About books, about school, about how much she hated math. She didn't mention money, didn't push. She laughed at my dry humor, said she envied my confidence, told me I had her dream job. For a moment, I let my guard slip, until the barista walked by with our drinks and Ivy reached for hers, and I saw her phone screen light up. A message popped up, clear as day. She's taking the bait. She didn't notice me seeing it. But I saw everything. My blood went cold. I leaned back slowly, looked at her smile, at her carefully placed stories, the well-timed vulnerability, the Fox sisterhood. I was never her sister. I was the target. Some betrayals don't start with a lie. They start with a laddie, a gentle laugh, a second chance you should have never given. I opened the door for Ivy, not realizing she wasn't looking for a reunion. She was looking for leverage. I didn't say anything. I didn't flinch. Didn't let my eyes linger on the message. I just smiled, raised my coffee, and so, "What's your backup school?" She talked for 5 more minutes like nothing happened. I nodded, laughed at the right spots. Let her think the performance was working. Let her feel smart. Because sometimes you learn more from silence than confrontation. That night, I forwarded the photo I secretly took of her phone screen to myself. Zoomed in. Read it again. She's taking the bait. No sender name. Just a number. I cross-checked it with old contacts from my mother's phone from years ago. Back when I had access to her cloud before she remembered to change the password. It wasn't Dana's number. It was Isla's. That stunned me. I thought Isla was the quiet one. The one who stayed in the background. Who looked at me that day like she didn't know what to feel. Now I saw it clearly. This wasn't Dana's plan. This was Ivy and Isla. Together, coordinated, careful. And I just walked right into their little maze. The next morning I got a package at my office. No return address. Inside was a photo. Me and Ivy, from the coffee shop. She was smiling. I was mid-laugh. Underneath, in neat handwriting, "You make this too easy." I paused, then smiled. Because this wasn't about tuition anymore. This wasn't about forgiveness. It was about something else. Something I hadn't quite figured out yet. But I would. I always do. They think silence means surrender. They think kindness is weakness. But I've spent half my life surviving people who thought I was soft. Let them believe that. It just makes the snap back harder. You know what happens when you grow up abandoned? You learn how to read silence. You learn how to plan. And you learn that the best revenge doesn't scream. It waits. After that photo showed up at my office, I knew 2 things. This wasn't just about money. They were watching me, which meant they were sloppy. I started digging. I have access to databases most people would kill for. One perk of being in senior operations. Public records, digital footprints, financial behavior. Ivy and Isla may have been raised to smile pretty and look harmless, but they weren't half as invisible as they thought. Within 2 days, I had 3 student loan applications in Ivy's name, all denied. 1 forged signature. My name. The document was flagged but never prosecuted. Likely because she pulled the application right before it went through final processing. Sloppy. Desperate. I didn't report it. Not yet, because now I had leverage. So I sent her an email. No greeting, no small talk. Just nice try with the loan app. Cute signature, by the way. We need to talk. Privately. Just you and me. No more coffee shops. She replied 6 minutes later. You're misunderstanding. I can explain. You can try. I wrote back. 1-on-1. Tonight, 8 p.m. Don't bring Isla. Don't bring Dana. You lie again. I pressed charges. I picked the location, an empty park 2 blocks from my place. No cameras, just streetlights and gravel. She showed up exactly on time, hair in a ponytail. No makeup, dressed down, playing harmless. Eliza, please, she started. It wasn't what you think. Then tell me, I said. She hesitated. Too long. You forged my name on a federal document. I panicked. She said quickly. Mom kept saying you'd never help. Isla said maybe if I tried to just get the application through. You let Isla push you into federal fraud. I didn't submit it, she shouted. I pulled it. I wanted a future. Okay. I thought maybe if I got in and showed you how serious I was. You were serious enough to forge my name, I said, but not enough to ask like a human being. She went quiet. Then she said the words I didn't expect. It wasn't about college. I didn't move. She continued. It's not just tuition. It's about the inheritance. I froze. What inheritance? People always say, follow the money. But what they forget is, the money never walks alone. It brings secrets. It brings blood. And it always brings the ones who think they deserve more. Even if they'd rather lie than ask. Would you forgive someone who faked a life just to steal yours? What inheritance? The words slipped out before I could stop them. And I hated how small my voice sounded. Ivy looked at the ground. From Grandpa and Grandma, the estate, the savings, everything. I shook my head. They barely had enough to cover heat when I lived there. She bit her lip. That's what they told you. Then she pulled something from her bag. Folded documents. Wills. Financial statements. Legal filings. I scanned them in the dim light, my brain catching up faster than my pulse could handle. The documents were real. My grandparents had invested for decades. Quiet accounts, long-held bonds, life insurance. Together, it was over $700,000. Enough to pay for college 3 times over. Enough to change lives. And the kicker, all of it was left to me. Not Dana, not Ivy or Isla. Not even split. Me, sole beneficiary. The will had been updated 5 years ago, when my grandmother passed. I'd been notified by mail, but it was sent to an old address and never followed up. Apparently, my grandfather wanted to protect me from drama and said he'd deliver the news himself. He died a month later. No one ever told me. I looked up at Ivy. Her expression was unreadable now. Calm, composed. You knew? I asked. She nodded. How long? Over a year. Dana found the original documents after Grandpa passed. She didn't take it well. Said it was insulting. Isla started digging. We thought maybe if we reconnected first. You could guilt me into sharing it. I finished. She didn't deny it. But I didn't come tonight to beg, she added. I came to warn you. I blinked. About what? Her voice lowered. Mom hired a lawyer. A real one. She's planning to contest the will. She's saying Grandpa wasn't of sound mind, that you manipulated him, that it was undue influence. I actually laughed. Undue influence. I hadn't spoken to the man in 3 months before he died. She doesn't care, Ivy said. She'll make noise, dig up anything, threaten everything. She doesn't have a case, I said. She doesn't care about that either. They didn't come to rebuild a family. They came to dismantle a decision, to erase my name from a line they thought they deserved. This wasn't about tuition or reconciliation. This was about control. I hired a lawyer the next morning. Not just any lawyer. Vanessa Chu, ex-litigator, sharp as a blade, the kind of woman who wore heels like they were armor. I sent her everything, the will, the emails, the student loan forgery, even the photo Ivy had mailed me at the office. She barely blinked. She's bluffing, Vanessa said. But a loud bluff, when targeted right, can break your spine if you're not ready. And Dana had never needed truth. She just needed an audience. 3 days later, the first article dropped. Strange daughter inherits entire family estate, leaves mother and twin sisters destitute. It wasn't from a real journalist. It was a blog, syndicated through a gossip aggregator. But it went viral. Fast, then came the Reddit thread, the TikTok stitch, the Twitter thread. People started deeming me with things like, "Your poor mother. Why wouldn't you share it? You didn't raise yourself." This is why boomers hate millennials. They didn't know me, but they had pictures, old ones, of me with Dana when I was little, of the twins in hospital beds, of me laughing on a beach at age 13, ripped from Facebook and framed like villainy. I knew exactly where the photos came from Dana's archives. She'd fed the fire herself. Even Ivy looked shaken when I confronted her. "She said it was just to scare you," Ivy whispered. "She said no one would care. Just online noise. It's not noise when people start calling my job." I snapped. "When clients start Googling my name and see the word manipulative next to it." Vanessa called me that night. "She's smart," she said. "She's not filing the suit yet. She's poisoning the jury pool first, rewriting the story in public, so that when she does file, she's the victim. And you're the greedy one." I sat in my kitchen, blinds drawn, lights off, and realized this wasn't about the money. This wasn't even about the will. This was character assassination, a reputational hit job, launched by the woman who once braided my hair while I slept. And for the first time in this entire saga, I got angry. Not just hurt, not sad, not lost, but ready. They say your past can't hurt you if you've moved on. But that's only true if your past doesn't have a camera, a motive, and a last name. She tried to make me look like a thief. But what she forgot is that I know how to fight back. And I don't need to scream to win. The first thing Vanessa did was file a cease and desist, then a preemptive legal notice if Dana so much as implied anything defamatory again, online, offline, or through any third-party, anonymous tip. We'd file a civil suit for reputational damages. We weren't waiting for her to act anymore. We were dragging this into the light, and Dana, she responded the only way she knew how, with drama. She gave an interview, local podcast, hosted by a bitter divorcee who loved family chaos. Dana went on for nearly an hour, crying, sighing, and weaving a narrative so twisted even I had to admire her talent for fiction. She called me emotionally unstable, said I had a history of outbursts, said I once pushed her down the stairs at 14, a story so made up I almost laughed. But the real dagger, she ended the interview with a soft, trembling voice and said, "I just don't want money. I want my daughter back." The comment section exploded. How can someone be so cold to their own mom? This generation is disgusting. She's gonna regret it when her mom's in the ground. I didn't sleep that night, but I didn't break either. Because Vanessa had already filed our own motion, a petition to uphold the valid will, supported by financial statements, witness affidavits, and a notarized letter from my grandfather stating why he had left the entire estate to me. It wasn't bitterness. It was intention. Grandpa had watched me get pushed out of that house. He saw how I worked part-time to survive, how I built myself from zero. And in his final years, he told my Uncle Rick, "She was the only one who never asked for anything, so I'll give her everything." Now that statement was sworn. On paper. In court. The trial was set for 6 weeks later. But already, the legal pressure had begun to shift. Dana's new lawyer requested a private settlement discussion. Ivy sent me a single text. She's scared. You should be too. I didn't reply. Instead, I started compiling every single message Ivy had sent me, including the one where she admitted they forged my signature, and the one about the bait. If they wanted to play games in front of a judge, I'd bring the whole rule book. Some people spend their whole lives perfecting lies, But truth has one weapon: they can't fake evidence. You want a war? Put me on the record. Put me under oath. Then watch what happens when a daughter speaks. With facts, not tears. The courtroom was cold. Not because of the air conditioning, because of the tension. I sat at the front, beside Vanessa, in a navy suit that fit like armor. Dana was across the aisle, lips pursed, dressed in a soft gray sweater like she was starring in her own Hallmark drama. She looked fragile, deliberately so. Isla sat behind her, arms crossed, staring straight ahead. Ivy didn't come. The judge was an older woman, sharp-eyed and efficient. She'd seen it all before. Nothing in that courtroom was going to shock her. But me. I was buzzing, not with fear, with clarity. This wasn't about winning money. It was about taking back my name. Vanessa opened strong. She submitted the will, the notarized letter, Grandpa's financial trail, his final emails. She built the case like a wall. Clean. Unshakable. Then came my turn on the stand. Vanessa stood beside me. Ems Ward, did you coerce or manipulate your grandfather into leaving you the estate? No. Did you know about the contents of the will before his passing? No. I only found out because someone sent me documents that should have been mine 5 years ago. She nodded. And when your mother and sisters approached you, what did they say? They asked for help, I said. First with tuition. Then came the emotional manipulation. When that didn't work, they tried to forge my signature on a loan. And when that didn't work, they went public. I paused. Then I looked directly at Dana. She said I abandoned her, that I owed her for raising me. But she didn't raise me. She replaced me. The room went silent. She gave me away to my grandparents when I was 16. No calls, no support, just gone. But now that I've made something of myself, she's suddenly interested. Dana's lawyer objected. Speculative. The judge held up a hand. Overruled. She's establishing character. Vanessa leaned in. One more question, Ms. Ward. I nodded. In your opinion, why did your grandfather leave you everything? I swallowed, then said, slowly, because I never asked him to. Some truths don't need a microphone. They only need a room that can't look away. I wasn't loud. I wasn't angry. I wasn't cruel. I was calm. And that's what shook her the most. Dana took the stand the next morning. She wore a pale blue blouse and a cross necklace, subtle, strategic. Her voice quivered in just the right places. She started by talking about struggles, about sleepless nights, about how hard it is to raise a daughter alone. She looked at me like I was her missing puzzle piece, like she couldn't understand why I wouldn't just fall back into place. And then she reached into her lawyer's briefcase. I'd like to submit something, she said, something I found in my late father's drawer. It was a letter, handwritten, on yellowed paper, with my grandfather's name at the bottom. It read, "To whom it may concern, if anything happens to me, I would like my estate to be equally divided between my daughter Dana and her 2 girls, Isla and Ivy. Eliza does not need it. She's already independent." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Even I froze. The judge raised an eyebrow. Do you have authentication? Dana's lawyer stood. We've submitted a handwriting expert's preliminary report. The signature appears to match previous documents. Vanessa leaned in. That's not his writing, she whispered to me. I've seen dozens of his letters. This is too clean, too formal. My pulse pounded, but I stayed still, because sometimes silence speaks louder than denial. The judge flipped through the pages. I'll allow the letter into review, she said, but only as supplemental material. We'll conduct a verification process. Dana turned to look at me. She wasn't triumphant. She was smiling softly, like a woman who thought she'd found the final nail. But here's what she didn't know: that letter. I'd seen it before, because Ivy sent me a photo of it. A year ago, when she accidentally screenshotted her messages, and in that photo, the letter was still half written, no signature. Just, if anything happens to me, followed by blanks and a cursor. It wasn't a letter. It was a draft, a fake, typed, printed, and later forged. I turned to Vanessa and whispered, "We're not just defending anymore. We're going on offense." Some lies wear their best disguise in court. They come dressed in sentiment, signed in stolen ink, sealed with shaking hands. But the truth, it doesn't tremble. It waits, quietly, until the mask falls off. The next morning, the courtroom was quieter than usual. Even Dana didn't meet my eye. She had played her biggest card, the forged letter, and the room still hadn't turned on me. Not fully. Yet, but Vanessa, she had fire in her eyes. When the judge asked if we had anything in response to the new evidence, Vanessa stood slowly. "Yes, Your Honor," she said. "We would like to submit digital evidence, along with metadata and message records, regarding the alleged letter submitted by the claimant yesterday." The courtroom stirred. Vanessa walked to the center with a printed screenshot in hand. Then another. Then a full-page exhibit of chat logs between Ivy and an unnamed sender. And then she said the words that cracked the silence like a whip. "We have proof that this letter was fabricated on a laptop, not handwritten by the deceased, and was shared digitally before it was ever signed." Gasps again. She placed the first exhibit up for the judge. A photo from Ivy's phone, the exact letter, unfinished, still open in a Word document, no signature, just the line, "If anything happens to me," time-stamped 1 year ago. On Ivy's laptop, Vanessa continued, "Furthermore, we have text messages, already verified by a digital forensics expert, in which Ms. Ivy Ward refers to the letter as bait and discusses using it to pressure the defendant. She read the message aloud. She's taking the bait. I'll print the letter after we fix the ending." Dana's lawyer stammered. "Objection. This is hearsay." The judge didn't even look up. Overruled. Vanessa handed in the official affidavit from the forensics expert. All verified, all admissible. Then she delivered the final blow. "Your Honor, this isn't just a contested will. It's a coordinated scheme involving forgery, fraud, and reputational sabotage. And my client, Eliza Ward, has shown remarkable restraint. But today, we request the court not only uphold the original will, but refer this matter for criminal investigation." The judge was stone still. Dana looked like the color had drained from her face. And somewhere, in the back of the gallery, Ivy stood up. She didn't speak. She didn't argue. She just walked out. The moment the truth speaks, it doesn't have to yell. It just walks in, calmly, with receipts. And suddenly, the ones who shouted the loudest can't even stand the sound of their own silence. It happened during a recess. The judge had called for a 30-minute break after Vanessa's bombshell. Dana's legal team scattered like ants. I stood near the window, sipping water with hands that weren't shaking, for the first time in weeks. Then Isla approached. She wasn't with Dana. She wasn't even on the same side of the room anymore. "Eliza," she said softly, "can I talk to you?" I turned slowly. Now's not the time to ask her forgiveness. "I'm not here to ask," she said. "I'm here to testify." I blinked. "What?" She held out a folded paper. "A formal request to speak as a voluntary witness for the defense." I scanned it. Her name was written in her own neat, angled script. The signature matched. So did the fear in her eyes. "She's losing," Isla said. "And now she's dangerous." I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. Vanessa came over a minute later, read the document, and nodded once. "She testifies after lunch," Vanessa said. "And we don't guide her. No prep. She wants the stand. She does it raw." The courtroom felt different that afternoon. There was a wait, a pause. Even Dana looked uncertain. Her lips were dry. Her eyes darted toward Isla like she didn't know whether to scold or plead. The clerk called her name, and Isla walked forward. She didn't look back. Not once. On the stand, she didn't cry. She didn't perform. She just spoke. "My mom forged the letter. Ivy typed it. They planned it together. I didn't help. But I knew. I stayed quiet because I thought if they won, we'd all be okay again." But the more I watched Eliza sit there, calm, alone, and still not cruel, I realized we were wrong. Dana's lawyer objected. She's not a credible witness. The judge silenced him. She's under oath. She stays. Isla kept going. My mom never really talked about Eliza until the money came up. But when she did, it wasn't with sadness. It was with strategy. Ivy said if we didn't get the inheritance, we'd be stuck living like nobodies. I didn't stop them. And that's on me. But I won't lie anymore. She looked at me. For the first time, not as a stranger, but as something else. Something like a sibling. I'm sorry, Eliza, she said. I don't want anything from you. I just wanted to tell the truth, before it's too late to matter. And for the first time since this began, I believed her. Sometimes, redemption doesn't come wrapped in apology. It walks in late, trembling, but brave. Because when someone tells the truth not to win, but to finally stop losing themselves. You listen. The courtroom was never the same after Isla's testimony. The silence she left behind was heavier than any gavel. Dana didn't look at her. Not once. Didn't flinch. Didn't move, just sat there, jaw clenched. Hands tight on her lap, eyes burning holes through the floor. I knew that look. That wasn't regret. That was rage denied power. The judge adjourned for deliberation the next morning. Everyone was tense, but I wasn't. I felt whole. Not happy. Not victorious. Just done. I had spoken. The truth had spoken. Even Isla had found her voice. There was nothing left to fight. Or so I thought. Because just as I stepped outside the courthouse, heading down the concrete steps, she was there. Dana, alone, no press, no lawyer, just her, standing still like a shadow that hadn't finished forming. I stopped for a moment. Neither of us spoke. Then she walked toward me, slow, deliberate, and slapped a manila envelope into my chest. You want truth? She spat. Read that. I didn't flinch. You lost, I said. No, she hissed. You lost me. And then she did something I'll never forget. She took one step closer and screamed. A high, sharp, violent sound that stopped people on the sidewalk, that drew eyes from every direction. Then she collapsed to her knees. Arms flailing. She hit me, she cried. My daughter attacked me, gasps. Cell phones, murmurs. But I didn't move, because I saw the security camera mounted right above us, blinking red. The bailiff came out 30 seconds later. Officers followed. Dana kept crying, clawing at the concrete, saying I was unstable, dangerous. A liar, but I just stood there, still, calm, like someone who had outgrown the stage play. She staged it, I told the officers. Security footage will confirm. And it did. They walked her away, not in handcuffs, but close. As they led her back inside, she looked over her shoulder, hair wild, mascara running, fury blazing. But I didn't look back, I just opened the envelope. Inside O's of me, as a baby, as a child, as a teen, all annotated, all labeled. All scribbled in the margins with notes like, her first steps, Eliza's last school play, she used to be mine. And at the very bottom a sticky note. If I can't have your love, I'll ruin what you built with it. Some people don't want forgiveness. They want control. And when they realize they've lost it, they'll burn the bridge, even if they're the ones still standing on it. The courtroom was full, but the air was still. Even the rustle of paper felt loud. The judge took her seat, adjusted her robe, looked over her glasses at both sides. Dana wasn't present. Her lawyer came alone, said she was unwell. No one believed him. I sat beside Vanessa, steady, calm, exhausted to the bone. This was it. After full review of submitted documents, witness testimonies, forensic evidence, and the verified original will, the judge said, "This court upholds the final testament of the late Mr. Howard Ward as legally binding." I didn't exhale. Not yet. The full estate, as written and intended, will remain in the sole ownership of the listed beneficiary Ms. Eliza Ward. There it was. No appeals, no amendments, no more doubts. Vanessa gave a small nod. My eyes didn't water. But something inside me shifted. Like a piece that had been clenched for years, finally released. The judge continued. This court also refers the matter of will forgery and reputational tampering to the District Attorney's Office for criminal review. Another nail. Not in my favor. Just justice. The room began to stir, voices rising in murmurs. I stood, slipped out quietly. The sun hit me like a question I wasn't ready to answer. And then I heard a voice. Eliza. I turned. Isla stood at the bottom of the courthouse steps. Alone. No lawyer. No makeup. I heard, she said softly. It's over? I nodded. Almost. She took a breath. I meant everything I said. On the stand. I know. I'm not asking for money. I know that too. She looked down, then looked back at me. I just wanted you to know I'm trying to be different. I'm applying to schools. I'll figure it out, even if it takes years. I nodded again, started to speak, then stopped. My hand went to my bag. I pulled out a folded envelope, one I'd written last night, not knowing if I'd ever give it to anyone. Inside was a check. It wasn't half the inheritance. It wasn't huge, but it was enough to get her started. On her own. Without Dana. Without lies. I handed it to her without a word. She didn't cry. She didn't thank me right away. She just held it, both hands, like it was something breakable. I'll earn the rest, she said. I know. We stood in silence for a moment more. Then she walked away, and I let her go. Sometimes justice isn't what you win in court. It's what you choose after. To stay bitter, or to build boundaries without turning to stone. I didn't forgive Dana. But I didn't let her define what I do with what's mine. It's been 5 months. The headlines have faded. The case is closed. The money sits untouched in an account I barely check. And Dana, she pled not guilty. But the investigation is still ongoing. I haven't heard from her. I doubt I will. Ivy vanished after the trial. No email, no social, nothing. I don't look for her. Isla texted me once, just a photo of her new student ID, no words. I didn't reply. But I smiled. My apartment feels different now. Lighter, I sleep better. I breathe deeper. The ghosts don't knock anymore. And yet something stayed with me. Not bitterness. Not pain. But clarity. You see, for a long time, I thought survival meant shutting the world out. Building a wall so high, no one could ever get close enough to hurt me again. But I've learned something deeper. Survival is not silence, it's voice. It's sitting in a courtroom while the people who betrayed you rewrite the story. And calmly reminding them what really happened. It's hearing your name twisted into lies. And still answering to it with pride. It's walking away, not because you're weak, but because revenge was never the point. Peace was. We don't get to choose the families we're born into. But we do get to choose the story we tell after they try to erase us. Not all closure comes with an apology. Sometimes it comes when you stop bleeding for people who only show up when they smell your success. And sometimes, the bravest thing you'll ever do is survive out loud. Have you ever been used, then blamed for surviving it? Share your story in the comments. Someone out there needs to hear they're not alone. Subscribe to Telling Story with me for more true stories that don't just entertain, they uncover. And if this story hit home, pass it on. Healing is louder when we do it together.